My name is Eliza Hart, and I'm 29 years old. If you'd looked at my life 3 weeks ago, you probably would have thought, she's fine, she's safe, she's got it together. Neat one-bedroom in Brooklyn with plants I mostly kept alive. A job in international finance that sounded impressive at parties. Every bill on autopay. A retirement account I actually contributed to, even when it meant saying no to YOLO weekends in Miami that my friends plastered all over Instagram. I built that life spreadsheet by spreadsheet, one boring, responsible decision at a time. I was the sensible one, the friend with jumper cables in the trunk and a backup charger in her bag. The one people called when their bank account was a crime scene, and they needed someone to stare down the numbers without panicking. People said it like a compliment, but somewhere along the way it started to feel like a label you slap on a storage bin. Practical, stackable, forgettable. I thought I'd finally found someone who saw more than that. Ethan Cole and I met at a friend's rooftop party in Williamsburg. He was standing by the bar, arguing about marketing metrics with someone who looked bored out of his mind. He turned to me, rolled his eyes, and whispered, "If I say brand synergy one more time, please push me off this roof." I laughed, he smiled, and that was pretty much it. 2 years later, I knew his coffee order better than my own, and there was a toothbrush in my bathroom with his name on it. He worked in marketing for a tech startup, charming, quick on his feet, the kind of person who made waiters laugh and remembered everyone's drink. Ambitious, funny, handsome, the whole package. Or so I thought. About 6 months ago, Ethan got promoted to senior account manager. Great news, right? More money, bigger projects, fancy new title. We celebrated with overpriced sushi and champagne he couldn't quite afford, but insisted on ordering anyway. The catch came later, buried in the details. "The new role means more travel," he said casually one night, scrolling through his email. "Conferences, client pitches, you know. Oh, and I'll be leading a team. Caroline's on it." "Caroline?" I asked, rinsing dishes in the sink. He didn't look up. "Yeah, Caroline West. We dated for a while. It was ages ago, like 3 years. We broke up way before you and I met. It's really not a thing." I'd heard her name before, once in a throwaway story about my ex who still works in my building. In a city of 8 million people, of course his ex-girlfriend worked in his department. Of course she'd end up on his team. I could feel something in my chest tighten, a tiny, uninvited knot. "You're okay working together?" I asked. Ethan finally glanced up, eyebrows raised. "Eliza, come on. We're adults. It's strictly professional. You trust me, right?" There it was, the test. "I trust you," I said, because I did, or at least I really, really wanted to. The first few trips were easy enough to swallow. 3 nights in Chicago, 4 days in Denver. He'd text me from the hotel bar, send blurry photos of whatever sad room service burger he'd ordered. We'd FaceTime before bed. He'd complain about red-eye flights and boring panels. Caroline was a name, not a presence. Then the trips got longer. A week in Austin, 10 days in London. The text turned into quick, "Sorry, exhausted, talk tomorrow?" Messages, FaceTime calls got replaced by red receipts and the occasional heart emoji. I told myself not to be that girlfriend, the one who polices every notification and turns every delay into a conspiracy. I'd spent years being the chill, low-maintenance partner. I wore that like armor. Whenever my stomach flipped at the mention of Caroline, I smoothed it over with logic. They work together. He loves you. You're not a teenager. Trust is sexy. Insecurity is not. Meanwhile, my own career was doing something I hadn't expected. It was trying to drag me out of my comfort zone. I work in international finance, mostly managing portfolios for high net worth clients. I'd been on a solid, if slow, track at my firm, the kind of path where you blink and 10 years go by and you're still next in line for something. Then the Dubai offer landed in my inbox. Vice President, 40% salary increase, expat package, housing stipend, company car, a chance to help build out the Middle East division from the ground up. It was the kind of offer people fantasize about and never actually get. I forwarded the email to Ethan with a dozen exclamation points and a, "Can you believe this?" He replied, "Wow, that's big. Congrats, babe. But Dubai?" Then a second message. "You know I can't move. My career is finally taking off here." We talked about it that night, or rather, I tried to. "I mean, we could at least explore options," I said. "Transfers, remote work, even doing long distance for a bit until we figure it out." He kissed my forehead. Eliza, you hate long distance. And my promotion is here. My clients are here. My connections are here. You're killing it in New York, too. Why blow up our life for some flashy title and tax-free salary in the desert? Flashy title. The way he said it stuck with me. I turned the offer down. Once, then twice, then 3 times. Every time my boss, Richard, would say, "Are you absolutely sure? Roles like this don't come around often." And every time, I'd picture Ethan rolling his eyes at brand synergy and the way he'd look at me across a crowded room like I was the only one there. I'm sure I'd lie. By the time his Austin trip rolled around, something in our relationship felt off. I couldn't name it, but I could feel it, like when you walk into a room that smells like smoke before you see any flames. He was gone for 5 days. The first night, he called from the hotel, Caroline's laughter faint in the background. "Team drinks," he said. "I'll call you properly tomorrow, okay?" Tomorrow never came. Not really. A couple of check-in texts, a photo of a conference badge, radio silence after 11 p.m. When he got back, he was extra affectionate. Flowers, takeout from my favorite Thai place, a new mug with VP printed on it in gold letters. "Manifesting," he'd said with a grin. Something in my chest tightened again, but instead of listening to it, I kissed him and pretended everything was fine. 3 weeks ago, on a Tuesday night, we were at our favorite Italian spot in the West Village. Tiny place. Too many tables crammed into too little space, candles and old wine bottles, waiters who knew our order by heart. I'd been trying to bring up the Dubai offer again for days, but every time I started, Ethan would groan about jet lag or say, "Can we not talk about work right now?" That night, I decided to stop asking for the perfect moment. As the waiter set down our plates, his carbonara, my mushroom risotto, I took a breath. "Hey," I said, twirling my fork, just for something to do with my hands. "I need to talk to you about something important." He didn't look up. If this is about my leaving socks on the couch, I plead exhaustion. "It's about Dubai." That got his attention. His fork clinked against the plate. "Eliza, I already told you I can't move." "I know," I said, keeping my voice even, and I've respected that. I've turned it down 3 times, but it's a 40% raise, Ethan, a VP title, the kind of experience that changes everything for my career. I don't think we can ignore it forever. He leaned back, arms crossing over his chest. Not everything is about money and titles. The way he said it made it sound like ambition was something I should be slightly ashamed of. "That's not what I'm saying," I replied. "I'm saying maybe we could look at options. Maybe you could talk to your company about a transfer, or we could do long distance for a year and see how it goes. So the options are, you get everything you want right now, and I just figure it out?" He cut in, a sharp edge in his voice. "Do you hear how that sounds?" I set my fork down, my appetite dissolving. "I'm trying to talk about compromise. That's not the same thing." He took a long sip of his wine, eyes narrowing slightly, but like he was gearing up for a closing argument. "That's not fair," I said, heat rising under my skin. "I have supported you this entire time. I've rearranged my life around your schedule. I've turned down my own opportunities to keep us in the same city. All I'm asking is that we sit down like adults and figure out if there's a version of this where we both win." He stared at me for a moment, then shrugged. "Okay, since we're being honest," he said. "I have another trip next month. 2 weeks in Seattle. Huge client. And yeah, Caroline's going to be there. It's non-negotiable. This is my career, Eliza. I need a partner who's secure enough to handle that." The restaurant noise blurred into a dull roar. My heart thudded in my ears. "I didn't say you couldn't go," I managed. "I've never said that." "You didn't have to," he shot back. "The way you talk about it, the way you get quiet every time I mention her, I can feel it. If you can't handle me traveling with my ex for work, then maybe we're just not compatible. I need someone who trusts me." There it was, the line. For a second, I felt this urge to argue, to list every late-night silence, every half-answer, every time he'd made me feel crazy for asking basic questions. To scream that trust isn't a blank check you write to someone who keeps forgetting to cash it honestly. Instead, something else happened. Everything went very, very still. I looked at him, really looked at him. The man I had been planning a future with. The man who could turn my concerns into character flaws faster than I could finish a sentence. The man who had just told me, in the softest possible way, that his ex-girlfriend and his career were non-negotiable, but my dreams were negotiable if they inconvenienced him. And suddenly I wasn't angry. I was done. I felt my mouth curve into a small, genuine smile. "You're right," I said quietly. "If we're not compatible, we're not compatible." He blinked. "What?" You're right, I repeated, picking up my fork again. My hands had stopped shaking. Thank you for being honest. Ethan stared at me like I'd started speaking another language. Eliza, that's not... I twirled a forkful of risotto and took a bite. It tasted like nothing and everything at once. The rest of dinner was excruciating. He kept trying to reframe what he'd said, to soften it, to backpedal without actually taking any of it back. I didn't mean you're the problem, he insisted at one point. I just meant we need to be realistic about what we can handle. Totally, I said. We should always be realistic. We walked back to my apartment in near silence. At my door, he leaned in to kiss me. I turned my head just enough that his lips brushed my cheek instead. He frowned. We're okay, right? I looked up at him, memorizing the question in his eyes, the way he already assumed the answer would be yes. We're honest, I said. That's a start. I went upstairs alone. The next morning, my alarm went off at 6:45. For once, I didn't hit snooze. I lay there for a minute, staring at the ceiling, hearing Ethan's voice in my head. If you can't handle me traveling with my ex for work, maybe we're not compatible. Okay, I thought. Then we're not. At 7:02 a.m., I scrolled to Richard's contact and hit call. He picked up on the second ring, sounding far too cheerful for that hour. Eliza, to what do I owe this honor? Don't tell me you're changing your mind about Dubai just to turn me down a fourth time. I took a breath and felt something heavy unhook inside my chest. I'm not turning it down, I said. If the offer's still on the table, I'm in. There was a beat of stunned silence, then a laugh. Are you serious? I'm serious. Good, he said. I could hear the smile in his voice. Welcome to the VP Club. We'll need you in Dubai in about 2 weeks to start the transition. I'll have HR send over the updated package today. When I hung up, my hands were shaking, not from fear, but from the sudden, dizzying realization that I'd just chosen myself over someone who wouldn't even meet me halfway. Outside my window, Brooklyn looked exactly the same. Same brick buildings, same gray sky, same traffic hum. But for the first time in a long time, my life did not. I didn't tell Ethan I'd accepted the job. Not yet. For the next few days, I moved through my life like someone rehearsing for a role I wasn't planning to play much longer. I went to work, smiled in meetings, pretended the word Dubai didn't suddenly glow neon in my inbox every time a new email from HR came through. In between spreadsheets and client calls, I was filling out visa forms, sending documents, Googling neighborhoods with marina views at 2 in the morning. At home, I started with the easy things. The winter coats I wouldn't need for a while. Books I loved but didn't reach for often. Kitchen gadgets I'd bought during some aspirational cooking phase and never used. I ordered moving boxes and packing tape, told my landlord I'd be breaking the lease, and scheduled a call with a relocation specialist my company recommended. Ethan texted me memes and blurry photos from the office. I answered, but my replies were shorter. Not cruel, just measured. He didn't seem to notice. One night, my older sister, Natalie, FaceTimed me. She's the opposite of me in almost every way. Artist, messy bun, always half falling out. Paint on her hands more often than not. Okay, what's going on? She said without preamble as soon as her face appeared on my screen. I blinked. Hi to you too. She tilted her phone so I could see her studio. Canvases leaning against every wall. Eliza, you've used more exclamation points in your texts this week than you have in the last 5 years. And you keep saying big changes and then following it with a skull emoji. That's serial killer behavior. Start talking. I hesitated, then exhaled. I took the Dubai job. Natalie's eyes went wide. You what? Oh my God, are you serious? Very, I said. Richard called. It's official. 2 weeks. She shrieked, then clapped a paint-streaked hand over her mouth. Sorry. Okay. This is huge. I'm so proud of you. How did Ethan take it? I stared at the half-packed box on my floor. He doesn't know yet. Her smile faded. Why not? Because, I said slowly, last time I brought it up, he basically told me his work trips with his ex were non-negotiable, and if I couldn't handle it, we weren't compatible. Then he implied I was greedy and unsupportive for even considering it. Natalie's jaw clenched. He said that? More or less, I replied. So I believed him. She watched me for a long moment. Eliza, what are you going to do? I looked down at the tape dispenser in my hand. I'm going to pack. I'm going to move to Dubai. And I'm going to stop pretending I'm okay with being the only one compromising. There was a wobble in her voice when she spoke again. Are you breaking up with him? I don't know if I'm breaking up with him, I said. I just know I'm not staying. Natalie nodded slowly. I love you. and I'm on your side. Just don't let him talk you out of what you already know is right. You do that. You rewrite reality in your head to make people easier to love. I know, I said softly. After we hung up, I sat on the floor between open boxes, my phone buzzing every few minutes with new emails from HR, flight options, housing suggestions, onboarding documents. Ethan sent me a selfie from some team happy hour. Caroline's blonde hair, a blur somewhere in the background. Wish you were here, he wrote, followed by a winky face. For the first time since I'd known him, I didn't feel a pang of jealousy. I felt tired. 10 days after that dinner in the West Village, he showed up at my apartment. It was a Saturday afternoon, gray and damp, the kind of day that made Brooklyn feel like it was perpetually holding its breath. I was in leggings and an old college sweatshirt, hair piled on top of my head, sitting in the middle of my living room surrounded by half-filled boxes. There was a knock at the door. I checked the peephole, saw his familiar face, and felt my heart do a strange, muted little flip. I opened the door. Hey, he said, leaning in for a kiss. I turned my head so it landed on my cheek. Hey. He stepped past me and stopped dead. Whoa. He looked around, taking in the towers of cardboard, the stripped bookshelves, the labeled boxes stacked near the hallway. What is all this? Is boxes, I said, because I didn't trust myself with anything more complicated than literal answers. He shot me a look. I can see that. Are you redecorating? Moving stuff to storage? I picked up the roll of tape and peeled off a strip. The sound sliced through the silence. I'm moving, I said. He laughed, a quick, nervous bark. Yeah, I got that. Moving where? Upstairs? Is there some secret penthouse life you haven't told me about? To Dubai. The word hung in the air between us like a dropped glass. Ethan's smile froze. What? I sealed the box and pressed down on the tape. I accepted the VP position. I leave in 4 days. His face went through 5 different emotions in the span of a heartbeat. Confusion, disbelief, anger, something that looked a lot like hurt, and finally, indignation. You accepted. Eliza, we were going to talk about that. We did talk about it, I said quietly. At the restaurant. You told me your trips with Caroline were non-negotiable, and if I couldn't handle it, we weren't compatible. So I made a decision that doesn't require you to compromise at all. That's not what I meant, he snapped. You're just, upending our entire life over one argument? Over a promotion? It's not just one argument, I said. It's months of you making me feel crazy for having basic boundaries. It's you telling me your career and your ex-girlfriend's presence in it are more important than having a real conversation about our future. It's me turning down opportunity after opportunity because I thought we were building something together, and you acting like I'm selfish for wanting the same thing you do. He ran a hand through his hair, pacing between the boxes. You should have told me you were actually considering it. We could have... I did tell you, I cut in. You shut it down. You made it very clear where I fit on your list of priorities. He stopped pacing, chest rising and falling. So what? You're just ending things? Throwing everything away because I said something stupid when I was stressed? You didn't just say something stupid, I replied. You said something true. You told me who you are when your plans are threatened. I'm just listening. He stared at me, eyes glinting. Eliza, I love you. We have 2 years together. You can't just pack up and disappear because you're mad about my job. I felt a sharp, bitter laugh bubble up and forced it back down. This isn't about your job, I said. This is about trust. His mouth opened, ready to deliver the same speech he always did about how I needed to be secure, how adults could be friends with their exes, how jealousy wasn't attractive. I held up a hand. Actually, I said, my voice shaking slightly, since we're finally being honest, I have a question, and I need you to answer it without lying to my face. He swallowed. Okay. The Austin trip, I said. Did you sleep with Caroline? The silence that followed wasn't the surprised, offended kind I'd been bracing for. It was the kind that drops into a room when everyone already knows the answer. Ethan looked away first. Eliza, he started. Yes or no, I said. Did you sleep with her? His shoulders slumped. When he looked back at me, his eyes were wet. It was one time, he said hoarsely. We were drunk. It just happened. It didn't mean anything. I felt sick about it afterward, I swear. I was going to tell you, I didn't want to lose you, and then things got busy, and... Stop, I said. He blinked. Just let me explain. Stop, I repeated, louder this time. Do you hear yourself? You slept with your ex-girlfriend on a work trip. You came home, brought me flowers, bought me a VP mug as a joke, and then you spent months making me feel unreasonable for even asking about her. And you want points because you felt sick about it and were thinking about telling me? His face crumpled. I made a mistake, a huge, stupid mistake. I will spend the rest of my life making it up to you if you just... This isn't a mistake, I said quietly. A mistake is forgetting someone's birthday or losing your keys. You made a series of choices. You chose to sleep with her. You chose to hide it. You chose to gaslight me every time I got close to the truth. Tears blurred my vision, but my voice stayed steady. You chose you, I said, over and over again. I'm just choosing me back. He stepped closer, reaching for my hand. I took a step back. Please, he said, his voice cracking. Don't do this. I'll quit. I'll ask to be taken off her accounts. I'll move to Dubai with you. I'll do whatever you want. Just don't walk away from us because of one night I wish I could take back. You're not hearing me, I said. There is no us if I can't trust you. There's no version of our future where I pretend this didn't happen and go back to being the cool, chill girlfriend who smiles and waves while you accidentally fall into bed with your ex on business trips. He flinched like I'd slapped him. Eliza, I'm not asking you to fight for me, I said. I'm asking you to leave my apartment. The words hurt coming out. They also felt like pulling a splinter that had been buried under my skin for months. For a second, I thought he was going to refuse. I saw the stubborn set of his jaw, the part of him that believed, if he just argued hard enough, he could talk me into staying the way he'd talked me into turning down Dubai the first 3 times. Then something in his expression broke. His shoulders sagged. He looked around at the boxes again, like he was seeing them for what they were for the first time. Not a bluff, not a threat, but a decision made without him. Okay, he whispered. He walked to the door slowly, like each step hurt. With his hand on the knob, he turned back. For what it's worth, he said, voice rough, I really do love you. I swallowed hard. For what it's worth, I replied, I believe you. I just love myself more than I love your apologies. He flinched again, then opened the door and stepped into the hallway. I closed it behind him and slid the deadbolt into place with a soft, final click. For a long time, I just stood there, forehead resting against the cool wood, listening to the echo of his footsteps fade down the stairwell. My phone started buzzing on the coffee table, his name flashing over and over and over again. I wiped my eyes on the sleeve of my sweatshirt, walked past it, and picked up the tape gun instead. There were still so many boxes to pack. The next 3 days were chaos. Not the dramatic kind. No screaming matches, no shattered glass, no dramatic monologues. Just the relentless, exhausting kind where everything seems to happen all at once. Movers calling, HR emailing every hour, my landlord reminding me about the lease break fee, my sister sending me hourly check-ins disguised as memes, my relocation specialist scheduling a dozen appointments, and Ethan calling over and over, 47 times. I know because I counted. He texted too. Paragraphs, apologies, confessions, promises, pleas, screenshots of a quit letter he claimed he'd typed, but hadn't sent yet. I didn't open most of them. The few I did read were variations of the same tragedy. I'm sorry. I'll change. I can't lose you. It meant nothing. I love you. Please. My friends split neatly into 2 camps. Camp 1. Hear him out. My sister Natalie, my coworker Lucas, even a couple of our mutual friends. Closure is healthy, Natalie argued. People can grow, Lucas said. You don't have to forgive him, but maybe don't ghost him. Camp 2. Block him yesterday. My college friend Mia, my mentor at work, and my cousin Elise. Cheaters don't change, Mia said flatly. You already know everything you need to know. Both sides had a point, but the truth was simpler. I wasn't angry. I wasn't vindictive. I was done. I had spent months turning myself into knots trying to understand Ethan's moods, his silences, his shifting boundaries, his insistence that everything wrong in our relationship was somehow a reflection of my insecurities. Now that the truth had surfaced, the tension that had been living under my ribs finally dissolved. My gut, the same gut I had kept shushing like an unruly child, was quiet for the first time in months. So when my phone buzzed for the 8th time before noon on the morning of my flight, I didn't flinch. I turned it face down on the counter, zipped up my final suitcase, and called my rideshare to JFK. The call from the terminal. I was sitting in the Emirates lounge, watching a forest of planes taxi across the wet tarmac when my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. I almost ignored it. until a gut feeling made me swipe. Eliza? His voice was thin, shaky, small. It's me. I closed my eyes. Ethan, how did you get this number? I'm at JFK. My stomach sank. Ethan, I saw your Instagram story, he rushed out. The suitcase, the coffee, the boarding pass holder, and Mia let it slip that your flight's at 3. Please, just talk to me. 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking. I stared out the enormous window at the A380 parked at Gate 7. Sunlight glinted off its wings, turning the metal gold. My new life. My choice. What do you want to say? I asked. There was a shaky inhale. Everything. I want to say everything I should have said months ago. That I'm sorry. That I screwed up. That I was selfish and scared and didn't know how to admit it. That I've quit my job. That I'll cut Caroline out of my life completely. That I'll do therapy. That I'll do anything, if you'll give me another chance. I swallowed. Ethan? No, wait, just please, listen. I can't lose you, Eliza. I know you think I don't deserve you, and you're probably right, but You're right. He froze. What? You don't deserve me, I said softly. Not the version of me who shrinks herself, who swallows her instincts, who pretends trust is something you can manufacture by sheer force of will. You deserve someone who can live with how you make them feel. And you can't? He whispered. I could, I said, but I won't. Not anymore. There was a long, painful silence. Eliza, it didn't mean anything, he said brokenly. Caroline and I, it was one stupid night. I was drunk and lonely, and this isn't about that one night, I said. This is about every moment that came after, every time you minimized my discomfort, every time you framed my fear as insecurity, every time you turned my instincts into evidence of my flaws. He didn't respond. Ethan, I said gently, I'm boarding soon. His breath hitched. Is this it? Are you really leaving me? I looked at the A380 again, sunlight flashing across the fuselage. Yes, I said, I am. Another silence, softer this time, resigned. I hope Dubai gives you everything you want, he whispered. It already has, I replied. And then I hung up. Before I could second-guess myself, I blocked his number, then his backup number, then his work email. Then I opened Instagram, found his profile, and pressed block. The world didn't collapse. It just quieted. I finished my whiskey, smooth, expensive, warmer than I expected, and took a picture of the view. My plane framed against the runway, sunlight burning along its spine. I posted it to my story with a simple caption. New chapter, VP life in Dubai. I didn't tag anyone. I didn't need to. 2 weeks later, the first update. Dubai was heat and glass and light. My new apartment overlooked the marina, sleek towers rising out of the water, yachts drifting like careless thoughts. My company car waited for me in the garage. My onboarding schedule was packed, my calendar full, my jet lag brutal. And I loved it. The work was intense, high stakes, fast-paced. Exactly the kind of challenge I didn't know I'd been craving until I had it. One afternoon, 2 weeks in, my phone rang. It was Mia. Hey, she said cautiously. I know you don't want to talk about it, but Ethan's not doing great. I leaned back in my office chair, watching sunlight scatter across the skyscrapers. Mia, I'm not responsible for Ethan's choices anymore. I know, she said. I just thought you should know. How's Caroline? I asked. A pause. She's fine, Mia said. She's been dating someone else for over a year. The Austin thing was nothing to her. I exhaled slowly. So that was the real heartbreak for him. He'd burned down a 2-year relationship for one drunken night with a woman who didn't even want him. He lost everything, and not for love, but for ego. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel vindicated. I felt sad. Not for the relationship. For the version of myself who wanted so badly to believe in him that she erased her own shadow to stand in his light. But sadness isn't the same as regret. Not even close. Final update. 3 weeks in. I've gone on 3 dates since arriving in Dubai. Nothing serious, just coffee and conversation. A French architect, a Lebanese consultant, an American teacher who said dude too often, but had kind eyes. I'm not trying to fall in love. I'm just trying to remember how it feels to be seen without being diminished. At work, Richard pulled me aside yesterday. You're exceeding expectations already, he said. If this continues, we may want you leading the entire Middle East division within 18 months. 18 months. In New York, I'd still be politely waiting my turn. Last night, I stood on my balcony, watching the water ripple under the city lights. For the first time in years, I wasn't planning my life around someone else's boundaries. My world felt bigger, not smaller. I thought briefly about Ethan, his last message before I blocked him. I hope it was worth it. I smiled at the skyline, the warm evening breeze brushing my skin. It was. Not because of the money, not because of the title, not because of the view, or the prestige, or the adventure, but because I finally chose myself. I finally listened to the voice I kept silencing for the sake of being chill and reasonable. I finally believed